On this episode of Hudson Valley Hustle, I'm joined by Robert Blum, owner of Hudson Valley's Best. It's a really successful martial arts, dance, parkour academy for kids and after-school programs. I had a really great time talking to Rob. I think you're going to love it. Enjoy. Rob, what's up, man?
Nice to see you again.
Thank you so much for joining.
Absolutely, man. This is exciting. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I want to talk about your business, talk about your struggles. You've been in business a long time. I'm sure there's been lots of ups and downs in that time period, but I want to know how you got the name Hudson Valley's Best, because I've seen the car driving around and I'm like, I don't exactly know what it does. And I looked it up. I'm like, that's a really good name because it's one of the first things that pops up when you type in Hudson Valley Best anything.
Yep.
So where did that name come from? And also, what is it that you guys do exactly?
Yeah. So, I mean, the business a long time thing, right? 26 years. I tell my wife we're the overnight success in 26 years, right? Like nobody realizes what goes into that. So, and then the name, it's interesting because that's only recent. We've only morphed the business in probably the last 4 or 5 years. So 26 years ago when we opened, we started as just a martial arts school. So we started as Just for Kicks Martial Arts, which a lot of people know the name because we were in the Fishkill area for 18 years previous to where we are now. So we moved about 5 years ago to Hopewell after some interesting landlord experiences, which I'm sure any business owner can relate to. And we had had enough and needed to get out and needed a fresh start. When we moved, we started with just martial arts. And then that amazing 4-letter word of a pandemic showed up and completely changed our whole business model. So we went from doing just martial arts to adding a dance studio because our kickboxing program was destroyed by the state when it came to not being able to do fitness and stuff. So we converted the fitness kickboxing studio that we had into a dance studio, and we branched out into dance. And then we slowly moved into parkour about 6 months to a year later. And we do summer camp and after school programs for all of that. And then we were like, wow, the business name obviously doesn't work anymore. So we tried to find something that we thought encompassed everything. And we like to consider ourselves the best in our industry at what we do in all of those programs. And that's where it came from.
That's wild. I mean, that's the fact that you got it like alone is pretty amazing.
Yeah, we were pleasantly surprised that it didn't exist.
I'm upset that I didn't know that it didn't exist.
and what's really crazy is, so I mean, in the time span of making all these changes and changing the business name, we've now also won Hudson Valley Magazine's Best of the Hudson Valley Award like 6 times. So now we have the plaques to go with the name, which is cool.
It's on brand.
Yeah, it's on brand.
Yeah, that's amazing. So it's martial arts, after school programs, parkour. I have to tell you, my kid, my 7, almost 8-year-old, he's constantly watching YouTube videos of just guys doing parkour.
So it's funny because parents will call us and they'll go, I don't know what this parkour thing is, but my kids are begging me. And I go, oh yeah, they know what it is. Between Roblox and Fortnite and YouTube videos, all they want to do is parkour. And then of course, any adult who does know what it is, they reference the Office scene with Steve Carell.
I was going to say that, yeah. Exactly. Parkour.
Yep. So that's usually where it tends to go.
That's amazing. So it's literally teaching kids.
Yeah. We have, for the parkour program, we've got all soft-sided equipment that they start on. So soft balance beams, soft vaults, things like that. And they eventually move up to wood and metal and, the Beacon location, which is our newest location. There's a full, $35,000 build out of structure for them to jump off of and do cool things on.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's cool. It's neat.
That's fun. Yeah, no, that's, again, the kids are doing it in the house. Like they're, from couch to couch and stuff like that.
Yeah, the parents love it because like they can literally tell their kids, okay, all this stuff you've been doing at home, you can go do it somewhere safe now and not in my living room, which it starts that way, but they eventually are jumping off the furniture anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, that's great. That's great. So you've been around for 26 years. You're doing something right. Talk to me about customer base. Is it mostly kids, I assume, but
in the beginning, numbers. Yeah, in the beginning we started with kids and adults, when we were just a martial arts studio. And, if I'm being honest, as we've kind of progressed with time, we've kind of really tried to pull away from the adults.
No kidding.
It's a tough market. It's a market where, I mean, you have kids. If something happened tomorrow where you were short on funds, you never take anything away from your children unless you absolutely have to. But you'll cut for yourself first, right? So, you'll look at this thing that you're doing and you'll go, I don't need to do that. It's not necessary. And you'll cut your own program, right? And it's across anything, right? I mean, guitar lessons, fitness industry, it doesn't matter. You'll cut yourself first. So it was one of those things as a business decision, we were like, we need to focus on, one good target market that we know we can serve properly. And then as we expanded into summer camp and after school programs, it was like, well, it just makes sense, right? No parent is going to sign their kid up for a program when there's adults in the building during the day and stuff if there's a summer camp program going on as well, right? So it was just the best decision for us was to get completely out of that market. We do still have a couple of adult self-defense classes late at night. So they're kind of after everything's over and all the kids are out of the building, but it's only 2 days a week and it's only a couple hours. So it's not really anything that we focus on anymore.
Gotcha. Did that come about specifically because of where things are economically, or was it always kind of that way where?
No. So, I mean, that really, again, didn't change until, COVID, right?
Yeah.
We had a massive fitness kickboxing program, upwards of 200 members,
Gotcha.
Doing $35,000 a month on its own, which just disappeared basically overnight. We post-COVID, when things started to open back up, I mean, that program was down to 22 members.
Yeah,
it was crushed. And those 22 were diehards that have been with us forever, and they're all still in our adult programs now, but it's just not the same. But that's okay. It happened for us, right? Which is the coolest thing, is that we pivoted into this new thing and the business has exploded.
Yeah. I've heard that a lot where not necessarily things like COVID, but some outside force forces a business to make a change and make a pivot. It's happened to me. It's happened to almost every business owner that I know. But a lot of times it works out for the better, because you become more focused and you decided, like, you picked that niche, you picked that exact customer to serve, you go all in on that, and then like magic, things just happen.
Yeah, and it's also that taking a risk thing, right? Like, none of these guys who are super successful that you look at got to where they are without some kind of risk. We took the PPP loan that we were given, and we literally spent every dime of it converting a kickboxing studio to a dance studio. And we're like, well, this is going to work or we're going to be out of business. Like, it's one or the other, and we'll see what happens,
Yeah.
And thankfully, thank God, it all worked out the way it needed to work out. So, and the business year over year now is like in an insane place. So I'll give you some numbers, perspective. So coming into COVID, we were probably doing 500-ish thousand a year, right? Which in our industry is a lot. I know some guys are like, I make that in a month, but it's not the same. We're also a very high net business. So like for us, we run net 35, net 40, which most companies net 5 to 10%, right?
Yeah, that's really good.
So it's different. So we went from 500,000 in 2020. 2021 we did about 750. 2022 we did 1.1, and this past year we did 1.4. So
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about, like, where the business has gone, because we were able to, like, kind of focus in on the things that we needed to focus in on that we had been missing all this time and not realizing, like, because we were comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Where things were, and we were happy. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
we were making 500 grand a year with a net 30. Like, I'm making good money.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where it was like, we don't need to change anything.
Sure.
And we didn't realize what we were missing. And for me, not necessarily the money, right? Like, the coolest part of it now is the number of lives we get to affect. So our company policy and our mission is, like, we want to change lives. Everything that we do for that reason. So, my wife, my business coach, everybody that talks to me is like, you could sell anything. I literally could probably be in any business I want to be in. We chose this business originally because of the kids' lives that we want to affect, and still why we're doing it today. And what's cool is this vehicle now of, martial arts, parkour, dance, after school summer camp allows us to have a broader reach and help change more kids' lives, which is what's more important to me than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, when you focus on your customer and you deliver them value, they come back. I mean, it's just, it's amazing. That's insane growth in a couple of years. Like,
Yeah,
holy crap.
It's crazy. And we're already up about 50K over last year in the first 2 months of this year. So it's nuts. It's nuts to look at the numbers and be like, wow, this is a little insane.
Yeah. So you serve less types of people and yet massive growth.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's spectacular. Was it just offering more services or like, to a specific audience, or was it being able to focus in on that one? Because what do you think has been the thing that has led to that?
I think it was the clarity, right? Like when you are too spread out and you don't have who your primary focused customer is, you're trying to appease everyone. You're trying to do everything for everybody. You've got systems and processes for a kids program, systems and processes for an adult program. You're trying to run events for this and events for that. And you're too spread out and too thin, and you're unable to kind of focus on the thing that you need to focus on, right? And then what's really cool is like, and it's weird to say this, so like originally we were a martial arts studio. Now we consider ourselves a kids activity center, and we consider ourselves really primarily after school and summer camp first, right? And then those programs kind of feed everything else for us.
Sure.
Obviously parents who let their kids come spend a day with you and they love the program that you're offering all day long, they're looking for something else after. And, for them, they trust you because obviously you've done an amazing job with their kid in the 8 to 12 hours a day they're leaving them with you. So they totally believe that your night programs are going to do the same. And then they come in and they try a night program and they're like, oh, wow, yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah. What's the age range? What's your biggest age range, I should say? Because I have a hunch about it. But
so summer camp and after school start at kindergarten. And we only take up to like 5th or 6th grade. But evening programs, so like our parkour, our karate, our dance programs, start at age 3, and we'll serve all the way up to, mid-teens.
It's crazy. When are you doing something on this side of the river so I can send my kids to?
So we may or may not be looking at location 3 into Windsor. Just saying.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah. I'll tell you what, I noticed I have 2 kids, 7 and 3, and there's a huge difference when they can be physical.
Yep.
And when they're stuck inside. That's why this time of year is really, really tough. It's got to be amazing for you guys. but I notice a difference. So I can imagine that parents love sending their kids to something like this because it lets them get out the energy, because it lets them get physical, because it's a healthy thing. It's good for them.
Yeah, I was going to say, and it's not just the energy burn, right? It's so any of the programs all have that health benefit of, physical exercise, right? Yeah. So obviously the martial arts program really focused on discipline and respect and life skills and things like that. And what's really cool is most people wouldn't expect it, but so do our parkour program and our dance program. So being that we were a martial arts studio first, we kind of took that and ported it into the other programs. So like while there's other parkour gyms in the Hudson Valley, you're just coming in to jump and climb, and there's nothing else being taught with it. There's no substance other than the technique, which is cool. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, if you have something like that near you and we're not near you, please take your kids. It's good for them, right? But what we do is really different, and it's something that the parents rave about because we hear it all the time. Like, my child was such a different kid before they started here, and their confidence is so much better, that they believe in themselves. Like, and again, that's why we do what we do, right? It's that changing lives thing that is so important to us.
Yeah. With the numbers you guys are doing, how big's your team?
Insane. And it's funny, right? Because it's one of the things I actually was thinking about yesterday. So we have a wall in the front lobby at the headquarters studio with everybody's picture on it. And I remember like in the old days, it was me. It's just me. And then it was me and my wife. And then it was me and my wife and a manager. And it was like, that was it. Like we had 3 people. We now, non-camp season, have 31 employees. Camp season, we're near like 80.
That's like crazy.
It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I struggled in the beginning going from 0 to 1. How the hell do you go from 0 to 80?
Yeah.
And manage it?
So, the right people in place is really important. And that's something that took me 22, 21 years to really grasp, right? Like I'd say probably 10 years into the business, we knew we needed help. And my wife and I and one other person in the office couldn't handle it anymore. And it got to a point where, you hire this one, you hire that one, and it's a couple of part-timers to kind of help you out. But really, that about 5 years ago, we got to a point where we're like, we are growing so fast, like we need a team. And when we transitioned and we moved into doing all these different things, so like the dance story's funny. I've never danced a day in my life. I don't know the first thing about the dance industry. Well, let me rephrase this. Then I didn't know the first thing about the dance industry. And yet we started dance. The catalyst to it is my son, my youngest son, who is 15 now, 11 then, is a competitive dancer. We took him to probably 4 studios. The first studio he was at went out of business. The second studio he was at wasn't a good fit. The third studio he was at, we were there 2 days and he was like, this is not for me. It's not the type of dance I want to do, which is cool. Like, you know, they got to find what they like. And then the final studio we took him to, while he enjoyed the teacher, he wanted to compete, and they informed him that competition's only for girls. They don't put boys on their competition team. And they don't really do hip hop, which was at the time his wheelhouse. So we were like, well, what do we do now? And then it just so happened, like all this happened and that program was kind of dying. And I looked at my wife and I said, I have a really crazy idea. And she's like, are you insane? And I'm like, it's the same business. Like the only difference is like I can teach martial arts because I grew up in the martial arts and I'm a master instructor in the martial arts, but I can't teach dance. I go, so we're really going to have to find good people. And she's like, all right, let's see what happens. Yeah. So like, that's kind of how we ended up there. So when we, obviously that was the first big step in hiring a team was like, I needed a director because like, I don't know anything about the dance industry other than like, it's a service-based business like the martial arts is. So like a lot of it's the same. And then like I couldn't teach. So we needed teachers. So like that started it, right? It was, we need to hire 5 people for the dance program because we can't do all of it ourselves. Yeah. So we were kind of forced into it if we wanted to do this cool thing. And we were lucky. I mean, and it was tough. We went through probably 10 teachers over the course of the first 2 years to try to find the right team. Because obviously we didn't know what we were doing in hiring. And obviously we had to learn that lesson. Yeah. We changed directors out just this past year to somebody with a lot more experience, which, helps too. Although the previous director was awesome, she went to law school and, she's pursuing her passions, which is great. I love that for her. Yeah, absolutely. And then summer camp came around that first year and we were like, we're going to do this big thing. We're going to get licensed by New York State and run a New York State licensed summer camp. And we realized the ratio in New York State's 12-1. And we're like, oh my God, we need 24 people, right? Because we run split shift. So,
oh yeah.
Yeah. So, that way nobody's burnt out from their day. Yeah. So learning to hire, learning to, be able to see through people's nonsense that they put on a resume that isn't true or, the way they try to skew themselves was tough. Yeah. And it was crazy because we actually did an amazing job. We only lost one person from the original group we hired that year.
Wow. It's pretty good.
That summer, right? We had one that just wasn't a good fit that we had to move on from.
Yeah. Are you like always hiring? Cause
literally.
Yeah.
I even when we're not, right? Like even when we don't have an open position, we have ads up and we're taking resumes. Yeah. And because like, when you're running with 30 to 80 people,
things
somebody
happen.
Always is either, has a disaster or they change their mind. They want to do something else with their life. Although I will say our management team and a lot of our like upper end instructors, they're lifers. They're not going anywhere. Yeah. And it's cool because, and they attribute it to how we treat our team, right? For me, that's super important. I can't do the things that I want to do without them, right? And, we're kind of in a position now where like the changing lives tag isn't just for the kids anymore. It's for the team members we have. Yeah. And, all of our team meetings that we do quarterly that I'm in charge of, there's some kind of personal development built into that because we want to see them succeed too. And we want it to be somewhere where they want to come every day, where it's the best part of their day rather than being miserable going to work. And I think that's a big thing. So, I mean, my first job was IBM. I was a contractor and that corporate world structure for me was a nightmare. They don't care. They don't treat you right. They don't give you anything. They pay you the minimum they can give you to get you to do the job. Yeah. And then they outsourced everybody to Brazil in the end anyways.
Yep. So did that force you into doing something like this or?
So I worked for a guy in my teens. I started at 13 illegally, who owned 7 martial arts schools.
Okay.
Part-time, just helping him out. And then eventually at 16, I became his head instructor at one of his locations. And at 17, I got promoted to the head instructor in the organization. So I went to all 7 schools one night a week and taught all of his head instructors. And then he opened a location in Wappingers right before I turned 18. And I came to work one day, and the doors were padlocked shut. And we built that school, from the ground up. There was like almost 300 kids in that location. And I called my father, and I said, I don't know what to do. I said, I just called my boss, and he said that he got into bed with some bank in Chicago from Korea, and he was cashing people out in advance based on their credit report and taking all the money instead of taking monthly payments and building a billing check. And he spent it all. And then had a couple of really bad months, and it cost him everything. And I said to my dad, I said, what are we going to do? I said, we've got 300 kids here. Like, we're just going to shut the doors and walk away. And he's like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, I mean, this is what I love to do. And he's like, well, let's make a run at it. And I'm like, cool. So we negotiated with the landlord, and he's like, you can have everything in the building. It's yours. Just sign a lease, which was awesome because, like, setting up a martial arts studio with mats and pads and things like that, even back then.
Wow.
This is 1997. So even back then, it was probably $30,000-$40,000 that we didn't have to spend.
Right.
So we're like, cool. We set everything up, and then the fun began. So the electric company wanted $6,000 in order to turn the electric on, and we're like, but we're not even the same business. And they're like, too bad. So we paid it. The phone company wanted $5,000 to keep the phone number, so we paid it. And then we were open maybe 60 days when we had to get the attorney general involved because apparently the bank that he had contracted with had a clause in the contracts that states if there's another bank-operated school within 60 miles, you have to take your kids there if this school shuts down.
Really?
Yeah. And all these people signed it because nobody reads anything.
Right.
And I guess the New York State Attorney General was like, well, in New York State, it's 20 miles, so that doesn't apply. But this other location was like 19.8 miles away. Like, it was like miserable. So, of course, all these people were getting phone calls and getting harassed, and they were getting turned over for collections. And, of course, because I worked for the guy, I got blamed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but guys, we're trying to help you. This has nothing to do with us.
Right.
I showed up to work one day, too. So we went from almost 300 members to about 35. And that's how we started our entrepreneurial journey.
Man.
With a bunch of debt that we didn't expect to have and no members.
Yeah.
So
You did something right, though.
Yeah, and from day one, it was always about treating people correctly.
Yeah.
And doing the best we can for them. And it's funny because one of those people that stayed with us 26 years ago, one of those 35, he's still with me and his kids are training with me. Yeah, so it's like wild, right?
That's
like when
crazy.
you think about it. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, we've seen all the obstacles. I mean, anything you could think of, making bad deals on rent, finding bad landlords.
That's part of the process, though, man. You're in business that long, you're going to have those war stories. I feel like there's nobody that has it smooth, right? It's
not
just
anybody
a lot of this.
Not anybody who's successful.
Right? Exactly.
They've all managed to figure out, the ups and the downs and persevering through and, just kind of finding the answers.
Yeah. That's why it's so cliche, but it's not for everybody.
No. No. I don't think most people are built to be business owners.
Yeah.
And a lot of them try it and realize it really fast in 6 months that, like, hey, this wasn't for me.
Sure.
I'd rather go back to working for somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's funny because I tell my wife all the time, like, never. Like, never again. Yeah. Like, I don't care what I have to do. I will not work for anybody ever again. Like, this is where I belong.
I've been in business for about 10 years, and I tell my wife the same exact thing. I'm like, if all else fails, I can figure something out because I will not go back to that, right? Yeah. It's just, I know that's not in me anymore.
Yeah,
I was in corporate. I worked in, corporate. I freaking hated it.
Yeah.
I absolutely hated it. I worked in corporate and non-corporate, small business as well, but like just having somebody over your shoulder, I can't. And I'm sorry, Tom, if I do it to you. but it's looking at videos.
Well,
it's
and it is why I tell why we treat our team the way we treat our team, right?
Yeah.
Like it's because I know what that experience is like from that same situation.
Yeah.
Right. We try not to micromanage. I mean, obviously sometimes you don't have a choice, but it's you do the best you can to empower people to do their thing.
Yeah, you have to. You can't. Yeah, I just felt suffocated when I was working for somebody like that. That just was on you all the time. What are you doing? Where are you at? I
mean, not just suffocated, but also like you don't trust me to do my job, right?
Yeah,
you hired me, but then you don't trust me to get the job done.
Right. And even if I was getting the job done, it still wasn't enough. It still wasn't. It was just I was in a sales organization, so that's a very different type of a thing. But still,
well, I mean that's my business, right?
Yeah,
like I mean, if
business,
you really think about it, we're definitely a sales business.
Yeah.
We have to sell it initially, and then we got to sell it every night.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
So it's
you have to deliver. You have to deliver on what you promise, and that's what sales is. But having somebody tell you how to do it is very different than figuring out how to do it on your own. It's so like mutual friend was telling me. Anthony was telling me something about like a free birthday party thing, or is that so? Like he was like Rob's genius, like a genius marketer. I'm like, I need to know what's the deal?
It's like Anthony's favorite thing that we do for marketing.
Is it okay?
Yeah, it is. Like
it's the one thing he told me.
He literally like no joke. At least once every couple of weeks, he's like, I still think that's brilliant. I wish I could figure out how to do it here. I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure you could do fitness birthday parties. Like, I'm sure there's a way. So it's a perk that we give all of our clients. And yeah, is it marketing? Sure, of course. But anybody who joins the program with us, their first initial birthday party for them is free.
Okay.
Unlimited kids, and bring as many as they want. We don't care, just as long as we know we have a head count so we can staff it properly. And obviously we do tell them because the team is working that day for free, basically, other than their hourly pay.
Right.
We're like, just please make sure you take care of them. Like,
gotcha.
If they do a great job and you're happy, tip them. If they don't do a great job, call me. Like, I want to know. But we don't get complaints. And the parents usually are raving about it's the best birthday party they've ever had. A, it's free. Two, it's like such an awesome experience. It's so different. Like, I mean, everybody's just so used to bowling and Chuck E. Cheese and like, it's crazy. And then like our guys, we're super, super, super big on the parent does nothing. They don't lift a finger. You carry everything in from the car, you set everything up, you break everything down, you clean, you serve the pizza, you take care of, the actual classes and stuff. Like we want it to be an experience. Like I have kids. My wife, the biggest thing for her all the time is all of the things she has to do on a regular basis. So we want that parent to have that break, enjoy your kid's birthday party. Like this is a moment like, so as we've become more successful, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess like material things don't mean as much anymore, right? Like that's what's really cool. Like when you start to make money and you start to become successful, you start to realize like all the things that you spent all your money on are stupid, right? And then you realize like the most important thing is the time you have with your family and the memories that you create and the experiences that you can have. So like my wife and I really like are focused now on doing things. So like we made a pact this year that we're gonna, hit Broadway once a quarter and experience a show. And like if we do something with the kids, like we're taking them places and doing things with them so that we can live those memories forever, right? So the biggest regret I have opening my business originally was like I literally was never home for my 21-year-old. Like his whole childhood, I worked all the time, right? Which it's every entrepreneur's story. Like the first 10 years of your business are always you working all the time until you figure out, who the team is and how to put them in place and all that stuff. Now, obviously, I have incredible freedom. So like my youngest being a competitive dancer, he also is in the process of potentially being picked up by a performance agency for hiring. So now we are traipsing him to Brooklyn every weekend and, driving him all over Tarnation for competitions. But it's cool because like I get to be there.
Yeah, you have the flexibility now.
Yeah. So I think that's the biggest difference too, right? Is like you kind of realize where you need to have your time. So we want those parents to, as crazy as their lives may be, both parents may be working. We want them to take that moment with their kids and just really enjoy it. Like, get the pictures you want to get, enjoy watching your kids smile. Like that for us is so important.
Yeah. But just me being the marketer and the business side of things, it's you have 20, 30 people in your place that weren't there before. So
yeah. And listen, like, do we get somebody from those parties once in a while?
Yeah.
No, it's not every party. It's not every time.
Sure.
And what's really cool about our business and the model that we have set up is, hey, maybe they don't want to do parkour, maybe they don't want to do dance or karate, but everybody needs after school or summer camp or a day camp when the kids are off from school, so they go into a mailing list. And when we throw something out for spring break camp that's coming up, or one of the local school districts closed for the day, that kid that came to that birthday party may pick up on that.
Sure.
And it's a couple extra bucks that the business makes because we did something cool for somebody else, which is what it's all about.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you're just constantly giving that experience to them. And
yeah. So we're currently, it's March right now, we are booked for birthday parties till mid-June.
That's
you can't even get a birthday party with us if you wanted to. Like, we tell parents 3 months in advance at a minimum.
Right. That's wild.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane.
I know plenty of others that are struggling to get parties.
Well, so keep in mind the party's got to be good too, right?
Yeah.
So you can offer a free party. If it's crap, it spreads really fast. I mean, I hate to say this, but that's the world that we live in, right?
Yep.
If it's really good, it takes people a really long time to get it out there and tell people about it. Yeah. If it's really bad, they'll all know tomorrow.
That's right. Yeah, I used to say it's the 20 rule. If something was great, you're going to tell one person. If it was bad, you're going to tell 20.
20. Yep.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
So
and it's a fact for us too, because think about it. Any time you've had a bad experience,
100%,
literally what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's going to know about it.
Yep.
This place sucks. It's everybody. I mean, this is awesome. So it's like you said in the beginning, overnight success.
Yeah, overnight success in 26 years.
26 years in the making. That's great. I love that, man. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about the business or book a party or whatever it might be?
Yeah, so website is hudsonvalleysbest.com.
Great domain name.
Yep. And then obviously any of the social media platforms. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we are on TikTok, and we are on, what's the other one? Twitter. And it's Hudson Valley's Best, and just look up either summer camp or after school, parkour, dance, hip hop, and there are specific pages for each one.
Awesome, man. This is great. I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely, man. My pleasure.
Great meeting you.
You too.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you. I appreciate that.